Welcome to the first video in our module on energy justice in energy systems. Energy justice is a concept that's gaining increasing attention, for example, in policymaking, engineering, and academic research. The energy transition provides new opportunities for clean energy and smart technologies, but it also risks benefiting some groups of people more than others. Although their approaches differ, policymakers, engineers, and academics working on energy justice all aim to ensure that the benefits and burdens of the energy transition are shared in a fair way. My name is Eva de Winkel, and in this module we'll explore together with my colleagues the role of energy justice in the energy transition. In this video, we have three main learning objectives. The first is to identify the key justice concerns that are arising due to the energy transition. The second objective is to understand how justice is experienced by different stakeholders. And third, to recognize the scientific disciplines that are studying energy justice. The energy transition affects people in different ways. Some people gain access to renewable energy, such as wind or solar, while others face only burdens, such as noise, without enjoying the benefits. These differences can lead to disproportionate burdens and disproportionate access to opportunities among people. For example, disproportionate burdens might be that communities that depend on fossil fuel industries risk job losses and economic decline. Moreover, low-income households generally spend a much larger share of their income on energy. And also, they often live in inefficient homes, making them more vulnerable to rising energy costs due to the transition. Disproportionate access to opportunities can arise when clean technologies like solar panels, electric vehicles, or heat pumps are mostly available to higher income households due to high upfront costs or housing conditions. Even when subsidies exist, these are often designed in ways that exclude low-income groups. As a result, these households might miss out on benefits that the energy transition might bring, such as lower energy bills and greater energy self-sufficiency. One of the challenges, however, is that stakeholders might have different views on what they see as a burden or an opportunity in the energy transition. Not all actors share the same goals or priorities. For some, affordability of energy is the main concern, while for others, reliability of energy supply, sustainability, or independence matter most. These differences in values shape what each stakeholder considers just. To explore different stakeholders' perspectives, we'll look at a fictional case study based on a real challenge in the energy transition in the Netherlands: grid congestion. In many regions, the electricity grid is reaching its limits because of rapid electrification and renewable energy development. This has led to significant delays in new grid connections, with some parties having to wait for 7 to 10 years. So, imagine an area in the east of the Netherlands where grid congestion is restricting access for new customers. The grid operator cannot immediately reinforce the grid, so scarce grid capacity must be allocated among competing stakeholders. There are various stakeholders involved. First, there's an industrial cluster with companies planning to electrify their production processes to meet their sustainability targets. Second, there's a hospital which depends on uninterrupted supply of electricity. There's also a high-income residential neighborhood, where many households already own electric vehicles and rooftop solar panels. Then we have a low-income residential neighborhood where retrofitting hasn't happened yet and residents have little solar generation, let alone electric vehicles or heat pumps. Then there's the grid operator, which is responsible for allocating scarce grid capacity while keeping the load on the grid within technical limits to prevent blackouts. And finally, there's the municipality, which sets local energy transition goals and makes urban planning decisions for the region. Let's look at what each stakeholder values most in this situation and what they might see as unjust when grid capacity becomes scarce. First, the industrial cluster. They value competitiveness and compliance with sustainability policies. For them, restrictions on grid capacity that prevent electrification threaten their ability to stay competitive and to meet sustainability requirements from energy transition policies. For the hospital, reliability of electricity supply is most important. Any risk of outages or delayed upgrades might threaten their patients' safety. Next, the high-income neighborhoods. They value sustainability and convenience. If grid congestion leads to restrictions on solar exports or charging their electric vehicles, this might limit their ability to live sustainably and maintain the convenience they are used to. Then, the low-income neighborhoods. Here, affordability and equal access to clean technologies are key. Rising grid tariffs or being excluded from adopting clean technologies because grid capacity is already taken by wealthier early adopters may be experienced as unjust. The grid operator mostly values reliability, affordability, and non-discrimination. What they might find unjust is having to prioritize grid capacity among stakeholders without clear rules from the regulator or applying rules that result in significantly higher costs for their customers. Finally, the municipality is guided by a set of public interests shaped by national legislation and local political priorities. For example, a municipality might prioritize sustainability and job availability. In that case, if scarce grid capacity is allocated to low social value projects like data centers instead of housing or local businesses, they may view this as unjust. So far, we've seen that different stakeholders interpreted justice through their own values and priorities. But it's not only stakeholders who have different views. Scientific disciplines also approach energy justice from different angles. Engineering approaches tend to focus on technical solutions to mitigate grid congestion, such as scheduling the charging of electric vehicles during the day to prevent overloading. These approaches typically frame energy justice in terms of how grid capacity or associated costs are allocated. However, engineering approaches often do not consider the broader social context, such as the values of different stakeholders or the injustices they might experience. Social science and design science approaches do focus on people's lived experiences and values. Social science often uses qualitative methods like interviews or ethnography to understand community concerns, such as how rising grid tariffs affect low-income households. Design science complements this by using participatory methods and co-design to explore alternative futures, aiming to move away from technocratic or economic mindsets to approaches that also reflect social, cultural, and environmental values. Institutional approaches, such as public administration, take a more top-down view to energy justice, examining policy and governance in the energy transition. They answer questions like who should decide whether scarce grid capacity should be allocated to industrial electrification or priority should be given to low-income households that currently lack clean technologies. Finally, philosophical approaches ask the fundamental question: what does justice mean in this context? Their work provides the normative foundation for all the other approaches by debating the underlying principles and assumptions about justice. These insights might guide what we consider a just allocation of grid capacity among stakeholders before any policies or technical solutions are designed. In the remaining videos of this module, we'll look more closely at some of these disciplines and how we can connect insights across them. So to conclude, Energy justice is about acknowledging that the energy transition does not affect everyone equally. Some people benefit more, while others face greater burdens. It's therefore important to always ask yourself who benefits and who bears the costs of this new tool or policy. In our case study, we found that different stakeholders may have different views on what they consider unjust. We also explored 4 different scientific disciplines that work on energy justice, which all provide a unique perspective on this important topic. Thank you.